So, for those guys who want to know, well, what does all this mean for, me sitting in India? Rabbit on about the global thing, but, what the hell do I care? I'm in India, I'm getting 8% of my deposit, And in India, there's sort of both bad news and good news. The bad news is actually likely to come first before the good news. And this is really one of the problems that I think we've sort of pointed out, is that financial savings as a percent of total savings has actually really gone down. Okay, and that has been because, in my opinion, the governments have basically run negative real interest rates and stuff like that. Obviously, that's changed in the recent 2 years. We haven't yet seen a turnaround, but I do think that there may well be a turnaround. But I think once you look at this very closely, because if it doesn't actually start turning around, what it will tell me is that Mr. Modi can talk about all the things until the cows come home, but it's not actually going to happen. And again, if you look at new capex, the fact is that new capex as a percent of GDP is one of the lowest points available in history. And again, I would look at this very, very closely to see that, okay, is there something really changing on the ground? And this is what I meant, about the credit structure of India. So if you look at all the PSU banks, and this is one of the things that is kind of difficult to get across. In fact, we had a conversation with one of the clients who had actually a position in a PSU bank. And I said, listen, it might look optically cheap, but guess what? It's actually a lot more expensive than even HDFC Bank, right? And the point is, if you take the market price and you actually take all their stressed assets, and you say, well, let's just wipe out 100% to be on the safe side, right? I mean, okay, you can turn around and say, well, maybe not 100%, maybe we should do 50%, whatever. But I think, to be a good sort of margin of safety investor, you say, well, let's wipe out all this sort of stuff. And you see that Andhra Bank is bust, right? And Central Bank is bust, and IOB is bust, and United Bank is bust, and UCO Bank is bust. And how many guys, by the way, is there any one of you who has an account at any of these banks? Okay, you're all very smart guys, except Vikas. Which one do you have a bank in? Which you have a deposit?
Indian Bank.
Indian Bank is not bust, right? IOB is bust.
I'm half smart.
So, where do you? Well, State Bank of India is not bust. It's still got, it's 3 times. It just happens to be trading at an astronomical valuation. But my point is that if there's anyone who has their money in their bank in those banks, I guarantee you that what they're thinking is, hang on a second, the Indian government is going to bail these banks out. I mean, for heaven's sake, they bail out SpiceJet, right? And what's SpiceJet? What is systematically important about SpiceJet? And then, of course, they have this Gyan Sangam and they say, oh, by the way, we're not going to interfere with you guys. You can make all your decisions. And then the next day they go to another. By the way, give 100 crores to SpiceJet. My point is the biggest problem in India, I think, is that the Indian government is actually backstopping the entire credit structure of the country. And that's a big, big issue because, frankly, the Indian government is simply not big enough to backstop the entire credit structure of this country. And there's one of two things that I can tell you with certainty. If they try and backstop the entire credit structure of this country, I can guarantee you the rupee is going to be at 120. It's going to be like the ruble, right? It's going from 33 to 63 or whatever it is. It's going to go from 63 to 120. So all those guys, Mandar was telling you, oh, by the way, Prashant Jain thinks, gold is a useless instrument or whatever. Charlie Munger thinks, you're a jerk buying gold. I can guarantee you, the Indian government keeps on trying to back the credit structure of this entire country, the rupee is going to go to 120. So what I'm trying to say is that, the guys who thought that, who believed the Swiss National Bank lost a lot of money, right? And FXCM lost $200 million in one day. And they had Lucadia, which is, by the way, in my opinion, this is a very interesting article in Zero Hedge, which said that, Lucadia, which is actually a subprime issuer of bonds, actually goes and bails them out, So my point is that, if the Swiss National Bank cannot be relied on, I can tell you something, I can tell you for sure that you cannot rely on, the government of India coming in and bailing all these institutions out, and there's really, really huge stress in the market. So, deposit of beware. But the good news is that India is the largest private holder of gold stock in the world. And if gold gets repriced, the real wealth effect and relative boost in purchasing power consumption to the rest of the world will actually be material and significant. I actually think this is the one thing that's going to save India. That when gold gets repriced, you'll suddenly find that people in India are worth, on a per capita basis, more than people in the US. And who would have thought that that would actually happen in the next 10 years? But take it from me, it's actually going to happen in the next 10 years.